Hello, RailShock here, and today we will be looking at all the multiplayer maps of the first two Socom games and their single-player equivalents. These maps will be based on the chronological order of the storylines. And also, I will be mentioning why these maps are chosen as the equivalents of certain single-player missions, as some of them are not so obvious. Blizzard is a balanced and fairly linear demolition map that is obviously based off the Ghost Town mission, which is the second mission in Socom 1. Obvious signs of this are the fact that it is the only snow mission in the entirety of Socom 1 with multiple shacks, outhouses, and the exact same dredge from Ghost Town. The only major difference is that Blizzard is at night whereas Ghost Town is at daytime, unless you have the unofficial patch for the multiplayer. Frostfire is a small suppression map on an oil platform in the middle of the ocean. For anyone that's ever played the single player of Socom 1, it's very obvious that this mission is based off the oil platform takedown mission from Socom 1. The fact that they are both on oil platforms, have underground tunnels that you can run through, and have computer rooms definitely shows the resemblance. Frostfire is basically just a smaller and simpler version of the single player counterpart. Abandon is a suppression map situated in the jungles of Thailand among the ruins of an old rock temple. The aesthetics of the paved rock roads and the temple ruins bear a striking resemblance to the architecture and layout of the temple at Han Ken mission from Socom 1. Yet the map in Socom 1 was set during the daytime. Ironically, Socom 2 ended up having the mission during the nighttime, which made it resemble the mission much more than it did in the Socom 1 version. Ruins is a medium-sized demolition map set in an abandoned old city made of rock in Thailand. Ruins architecture makes it easily identifiable as the City of the Forgotten mission in Socom 1. The only real difference is the starkly different layout of the city, and in fact the Ruins is much smaller than the single-player variant, with it also having no sublevels like its single-player counterpart. Bitter Jungle is a linear, medium-sized demolition map set deep in the heart of the Congo jungle. Because of the raised wooden shacks, rocky hills, and the terrorist demolition area, which looks an awful lot like this mission is mostly based off the mercenary staging area mission from Socom 1. Blood Lake is a somewhat large and very open extraction map with diverse terrain set deep in the Congolese jungle. The open and foggy center, steep gray rocky outskirts, and the shack with 3 POWs in it virtually gives this map away as being based off the incredibly difficult POW camp mission. Blood Lake is definitely one of the most obvious counterparts to the single player. This is also one of my favorite maps in Socom. Death Trap is a medium-sized extraction map from Socom 1 that has become known as one of the most difficult and rewarding maps in the entire game. It is set deep in the Congolese jungle during the day. Half the map is wide open and grassy, whereas the other half, where the terrorists spawn, is a close-quarters bunker tunnel system area, where it can be very nerve-wracking to venture around as a SEAL when making your way to the hostages. The Death Trap map, in my opinion, is a condensed version of the Mountain Assault mission from Socom 1. Even similar is the fact that it takes place in between larger mountains and grassy valleys. Then later on you move on from very long-range open areas to bunker tunnels and close quarters, where you rescue POWs. In both POW Camp and Death Trap, the SEALs have to work very hard in order to succeed, as they're at a disadvantage of attacking a fortified enemy that lurks behind every corner. Night Stalker is a small demolition map set in a rural village in the middle of a desert located in Turkmenistan. I believe Prison Break to be the mission that this map was based off of, because there is no giant prison perimeter area that encompasses a side of the map. But you have to remember that there is a village towards the end of the mission that looks sort of like the Night Stalker map. This one might be a lot less well-founded than the other claims for the other maps, but it still fits in just fine and makes sense. Sandstorm is a very large breach map set at nighttime in an unknown desert, where the SEAL team must breach into a terrorist compound and plant a satchel bomb in the terrorist headquarters to destroy it and win. This map is oddly but most certainly based off the Prison Break mission from Socom 1. It's quite odd, however, how the terrorists are the APF when they should be the Saudi Kahu instead. The giant outside perimeter wall with sections that can be blown apart bear an undeniable resemblance to the Prison Break mission from Socom 1. And thankfully the SEALs don't have to rescue and protect any stupid prisoners, or worry about a terrorist helicopter coming out of nowhere and killing them. Well, actually that's not exactly true. Thankfully this one doesn't shoot through walls or follow you. Rat's Nest is a large suppression map in a terrorist cave complex in Turkmenistan near the border of Afghanistan. Well, that basically gives away the single-player mission that this is based off of. If you haven't played the Socom 1 single-player, Rat's Nest is easily recognizable as a multiplayer version of the incredibly difficult Mouth of the Beast mission. The resemblance is so obvious and numerous that they don't even really have to be pointed out. Thankfully, the terrorists cannot spawn out of nowhere and wipe your whole team out like they can in the single-player version, unless they're cheating. And for our final Socom 1 map, we have Desert Glory. Desert Glory is an abandoned, bombed-out village in the middle of the desert in Turkmenistan, where the Saudi Kahu terrorists are holding 3 women hostage. Desert Glory is based off the difficult Deathblow mission from Socom 1. The fact that it's a bunch of bombed-out abandoned buildings and it's during the daytime make it very clear that Deathblow was the inspiration for this legendary map. Fox Hunt is a very large and open escort map which takes place in Albania. Fox Hunt is based off the first mission of Socom 2, Seeding Chaos. The first most obvious clue is that it's set in a giant open rural field, virtually identical to the aesthetic of Seeding Chaos. Many other landmarks such as machine gun bunkers, small look-alike buildings, and even the same broken down ancient temple are scattered across the map. The Mixer is a larger medium escort map based in an industrial yard in Albania, in the city of Shkodër. The fact that the Mixer is the only map that looks like this is so blatant that it doesn't even really need to be explained. This map is obviously based off the mission Terminal Transaction, which is the second mission in Socom 2. The only unfortunate part is that the SEALs don't get to have their cool stealth suits that they have in the campaign version, which is a giant shame. Last Bastion is a very large breach map set in and around an Albanian castle in the hills of Albania. The general castle structure, surroundings, and the name Last Bastion makes it very clear that this map was based off the final Albanian mission in Socom 2, Upland Assault, where you take out the last bastion of Saseri Syndicate. Next up we have Sujo, which is a medium-sized breach map located in the slums of Rio. Sujo was very closely based off the urban sweep mission from Socom 2. You can easily tell this because of the buildings and streets on the sealed side that lead down into the wooden shacks, and a small lagoon made of raw sewage water, which finally leads into the terrorist base, which is only slightly different from the one in urban sweep. Anawapi is a large breach map located deep in the Amazon rainforest which contains a terrorist fort, which itself contains a drug lab which the SEALs must destroy with a satchel bomb. It's easily ascertained that the single-player version of Anawapi is the difficult Stranglehold mission in Socom 2. Everything from the daytime Amazon forest to the wooden structures and underground cocaine labs are obvious clues that Stranglehold is the mission that Anawapi was modeled after, and they're both some of the most dangerous and difficult maps and missions for the SEALs. Fishhook is a medium-sized extraction map set in the Algerian coastal city known as Béjaïa. Seals must fight through the city streets and rescue 3 CHA peacekeepers, and then extract them. The coastal part of the map is extremely similar to the beginning part of the Guardian Angels mission from Socom 2, which is what Fishhook was based off of. And the only major difference is that Fishhook you extract peacekeepers to the beach, whereas in Guardian Angels you fight deeper into the city and a truck picks you up for extraction. Thankfully, unlike its single-player counterpart, in Fishhook the terrorists don't get a tank. Liberation is a large medium escort map taking place in the urban centers of Béjaïa, in the winding and cramped streets and alleyways, having many similarities to Guardian Angels, where you must fight through cramped alleyways and streets in both. And just like Guardian Angels, Liberation is an escort mission.
Valiant effort, guys. Mission complete.
Crossroads is a medium-sized demolition map set in a city square, based in the streets of Béjaïa, in Algeria. This map isn't extremely tied to any one single-player mission, but I believe that this map was loosely based off the Protect and Serve mission from Socom 2. Resemblances between the map and the mission are the market stands, the gazebo in the middle of the map, and the general urban setting of it all. Crossroads is one of the maps where they took much more liberties in changing it from the single-player version. Chain Reaction is a large and extremely vertical suppression map based in a frozen naval shipyard in Kamchatka, Russia. Chain Reaction doesn't strongly overall resemble any mission from the single player, but it does resemble the first plane hangar from the first Russian mission, which is the difficult lockdown mission. Towards the end of the mission, when you are scouring the compound for intel, you will enter a frozen hangar with a massive plane inside of it. The metal ramps leading up to the higher catwalk levels are what I believe the Chain Reaction map was based off of, complete even with a giant desolate craft in the middle, the plane in lockdown being replaced with a submarine in Chain Reaction. The only shame is that it had a perfect reason to make Chain Reaction a demolition map, just like its single player counterpart. But instead they went for a large suppression map, which is the same mistake that they made with Rat's Nest, which also should have been a demolition map. Before we get to our final map, however, I want to talk about some of the maps that are not easily linked to any missions in the single player, or missions that didn't spawn a multiplayer counterpart. Vigilance is a smaller, medium-sized urban suppression map set in Albania. It's more of an urban town-village type setting, and none of the Albanian missions look anything like it, but it's a beloved map regardless. Requiem is a larger, medium-sized demolition map based somewhere in eastern Russia. Requiem has 2 villages on the opposite side of the map where both teams spawn. An elevated cemetery occupying the center of the map, with frozen rivers splitting the villages from the cemetery. Underneath the cemetery there's a large multi-chambered tomb. In the center of the tomb is the satchel. Nothing in this map really resembles any of the missions in the Socom 2 campaign. This most likely was based off a mission that never made it into the campaign. Or maybe not, but who knows. Shadowfalls is a large suppression map situated deep in the Amazon rainforest in the dark of night. While being in the rainforest, unlike Enawapi, Shadowfalls is at night, and the overall look of the map doesn't resemble anything in the Stranglehold mission. Most likely this was yet another mission that was meant to be put in the game but was scrapped. However, most people probably wish this map was scrapped too, since it's a dark campfest, with no objective to get people out of their hiding spots. Hopefully some modders can come in and add demolition to this map and can make it much better. Until then, it remains an obscure, rare, and unloved map. Like I said, I have a theory that all these maps were based on missions that never made it into the single player. This is just a theory, only the developers know the true answer. There are 5 single player missions in my opinion that never had a multiplayer counterpart. Death at Sea, Golden Triangle Holiday, Hydroelectric, Against the Tide, and Doomsday Delivery were the maps that never spawned a multiplayer counterpart. Which is a shame because some of them have really interesting premises and environments. Some of these could have spawned very interesting multiplayer maps. Like I said, much like the multiplayer maps that don't have any single-player equivalents, the single-player missions that very well may have had multiplayer maps that would have made it into the Socom multiplayer, but either the budget wasn't big enough or there wasn't enough time to make the multiplayer versions of these missions. I would like to talk about what these multiplayer maps might have been like, however that is another topic for a different video. Our final map is Guidance, which is a very large escort map set in the tundras of Kamchatka, in eastern Russia. The SEALs in this map must at least keep one VIP alive until the timer runs out, or extract 2 of them to a helicopter in a hot extract zone. This map is based off the difficult guided tour mission in Socom 2. The biggest resemblance is the overall snowy atmosphere and the large hills that chop up the map. Also similar is the flat compound barracks where the terrorists are stationed. Also, in both of these missions, the SEALs have to escort VIPs. But at least the ones in Guidance are quick to follow you and respond. Whereas the VIP that you escort in Guided Tour does everything in his power to get himself killed and fail the mission for you. Even though most people don't like night maps, I think this map actually would be better at nighttime with snowfall, just like in Guided Tour. This would probably force people to go into closer ranges to find people. It would also make this map much more tense in my opinion. Even though other people wouldn't like that, that's just my opinion. The Socom multiplayer maps just go to show how useful it can be to create a single player for a multiplayer game. When you create a single player like Socom's, you get the groundwork, basic premise, and atmosphere for a well-made, immersive, creative, and atmospheric multiplayer map to be based off of it. Even though the Socom single player doesn't get talked about very often and it doesn't get the love and respect that it should from the Socom multiplayer community, it was crucial to help create fun and immersive maps in the multiplayer that we enjoy. If someday Socom did come back, I hope very much that they would bring back the single player and it would give us some memories playing as Spectre again. Thank you all for watching, and as always, I'll see you next time.